What's up, Rad Dads, and welcome back to another episode of the Rad Dads podcast, hosted by none other than the two raddest dads on the East Coast. Rob and I tonight are hanging and recording. Hello, Rob.
Hello, Sal. And this is part 2 of the Daniel Duffey interview episode.
Yes, part 2.
And I think an AK would be more valuable. And he's just like a total douchebag, basically. And I'm pretty sure he was not there to fight, but he wanted to tell people he was there to fight. Because if you want to go over there and fight, it's... So I actually originally wanted to go over there and fight, to be honest. But I got pretty confused by some misinformation that's out there. Because originally in my mind, I was thinking like I was going to go over and fight for like 3 months and then come back. And then I had like been told that like you can't just like go over there and fight for a few months and come back. Like basically you have to like go over there and fight indefinitely. And it's like, well, I can't do that. So like that kind of like ruled that out the window. So that's when I kind of decided to do, the humanitarian route. But I learned very quickly while I was over there that like if you want to go fight, it is pretty easy to go over there and fight. Like they need people. Like if you want to fight, they will point you to the front line. Like it's not hard. So that kid, he found KFC though. I know that he found KFC.
Priorities.
Mm-hmm. So that was like the thing he was most excited about coming to Lviv for, that they had a KFC, because the KFC in Kyiv apparently wasn't open. I can't imagine
why. If you could do it all over again, would you go, and would you do anything differently?
If I could do it all over again, I would 100% go. I think I would do. I mean, like I would do some things differently. I don't want to make it sound like I would like change everything, but like if I went over with the knowledge I have now, I would obviously do a lot of things differently because I could do them like smarter, more efficiently, or more cost effective. Because I think if I went over now, I would try and go over for longer, which I think I could do more feasibly given like now that I think I have like ways of saving money and doing it more efficiently, if that makes sense. But I don't know if that really answered.
Are you planning on going back?
I'm trying to make plans to go back. I definitely want to. So before I left, I thought I had like pretty much squared away with my boss that like I was going to not screw up my work situation by leaving, which I don't necessarily think that like me going over there made a bad situation. But I mean, I lost my job when I got back. So that has complicated things, obviously. So I need to figure a lot of stuff out. But I guess long story short, my plan is to go back. I don't know what the time frame is. There's a part of me that's hopeful that things will be resolved before I have an opportunity to go back, but I don't think that's realistic, honestly.
How long were you there for?
I was just there for 3 weeks.
He shit canned you for fucking 3 weeks?
I don't know. Like, honestly, I really don't have any way of explaining what happened there. To be honest, it didn't feel like it was a good fit for a while, just because there's so many reasons why. And a lot of it is legal, and a lot of it is political and loyalty and a whole bunch of stupid DC nonsense. But long story short, I don't feel like it was a good fit for me. I don't think I was like growing there. I don't think there was room for me to grow. And I wasn't, I mean, I like working, honestly. Like, I enjoy what I do. So, like, it's not like I'm like, getting a free ride and loving it or whatever. I really hated that I couldn't grow in my job. And honestly, I don't know. That's a whole nother thing. But I think, I think for a while I should have left and I didn't. And, I don't know what the final catalyst was, if it was me leaving or not. I had talked to my boss before I left and had gotten assurances from him that like that wouldn't have affected our professional relationship at all. And he's also a former Navy SEAL, so I thought he'd like appreciate what I was doing. And not that like I'm necessarily saying he didn't appreciate what I was doing, but I don't know. I thought things were going to turn out differently, and they didn't. But in retrospect, I'm kind of glad that they worked out the way they did, because I think if I had told him what I was thinking about doing and asking if I had job security and he told me no, I might not have gone. And I don't know. I would rather, even if I did get fired for going, which I don't necessarily believe is the case, like I would still rather have gotten fired for going.
So I think me plus everyone else listening, what did you do? What were you doing? What's your? I mean, as far as work. Sorry.
So,
Huh?
You had trouble with that one.
I did. It sounded good in my head. It just couldn't come across the lips. So what were you doing for work? What was your background, or what is your background?
It's so complicated. Whenever I try to explain it to people, it never comes out right. People usually ask me if I am. Have you seen House of Cards?
Rob said yes. I say no.
People usually end up asking me if like my job is basically like the Stamper character. And that is not what my role is, but it's very difficult to explain, especially my most recent position, because I was working, and I don't want to say who. Dude, you are so noisy right now. I don't necessarily want to say who I was working for specifically, because I don't want there to be like disparaging comments about that person out there. But long story short, I was working for a political action committee, which is a PAC. And because of like legal gray areas, it kind of became hard for me to do anything, because it just created like legal complications. So basically, I kind of kept getting like removed from things to do, and I don't know how to explain it. Like things that I was working on, like just kind of slowly were getting reassigned, because lawyers basically said that like I couldn't work on it anymore or whatever. So in this most recent job, I wasn't really doing very much at all. I was doing a lot of snowboarding. If I'm being completely honest, which is also part of the reason why I really didn't think like going to Ukraine was going to present much of an issue, because I didn't really think they'd miss me, to be honest. But they did. And so, yeah, that's what happened.
Well, all right.
I mean, it is what it is. Honestly, I think the person that I was working for, just to be, totally above board, I think they are the best person to win that race, and I think they are going to win that race. And I do think that they still want to help me despite, all this. So it's not like I think they're a shitty person or they just like screwed me over. even though like temporarily I am a little screwed over, but you know, I mean, that's life, and they can't like worry about me. They've got to do what they've got to do, you know.
You have any prospects on the horizon?
So, not well. I definitely have opportunities if I want to pursue them. I don't necessarily know what exactly I want to do because pretty much everything that I've discussed so far would require me to move. And some of them wouldn't necessarily require me to leave Montana, but I don't know. I don't know. I feel like that's like a whole other thing. But I
There's a story for the story for the story.
well, I told you weren't going to get any straight answers out of me, so
Yes,
I
you
just
did
keep
warn
like
us.
leading you on and like never give you like I never finish the story, so that way like you don't actually know, you know, you don't know where I stand on anything.
Just leave people at the edge of their seat, wanting
Exactly.
more.
Exactly. But so I don't know. I think now that I'm finding myself with some time off, and I think for me right now to get in on like a campaign or something isn't necessarily the right time, just because, you know, most of the campaigns are coming into the last few months now. They've already got their staff, or at least like staff for most of the positions that I would probably be interested in. So getting on another campaign for like the next 6 months or whatever it is at this point probably doesn't really make sense. So I don't know. I would really like to try and pursue options to go back. I've been looking at jobs through like the Red Cross and stuff like that. You know, a lot of them are just like 6 month kind of tour things over to Ukraine or Poland or wherever, but just some way to like continue to be involved. I don't know. That's kind of where my thought process is now. I'm also, I don't know how I would like to say I'm very committed to doing it, although I know how lazy I am. Oh, by the way, to answer your question, I did finally graduate college.
I realized
Last week.
I realized as I was saying it, I was like, "Oh my god, I don't know if he graduated or not."
Yep, I finally did that.
Congratulations!
But, thanks. But seeing as how I don't necessarily like to move at a pace that most people would like me to move at, I I've had a lot of people tell me I should write a book about my experience over there, and I started kind of writing some things down. And I don't know if I'm actually going to be able to, you know, keep myself committed to actually finishing it. But I would like to do that and maybe raise some money to continue to do some good for people over there. I don't know. We'll see.
You could always get a ghostwriter to do it and just tell your story to them and have them write it.
That I feel like if I could figure out a way to find someone to do that, like I think that would be great, because I feel like I could tell someone my story and like tell it like in a very vivid way that like a ghostwriter could make it a very great book. But like for me, I just don't want to sit down and write it. Like I'll tell someone my story, but like maybe I just need a stenographer.
Yeah, I mean, I've written 2 books and they both suck. So believe me, I hear you.
I have written a few. I didn't know that, actually. I should send you a few chapters, because I have written a few chapters, and I know they need work still, but I'm just like trying to put the meat on the bones, not necessarily cover like style, but like
Yeah, send them to me.
Yeah,
I'll edit them. I mean, you
Yeah.
should see my chapters. I tear them apart just because it's my own stuff, so I'm very critical. But yeah, I can.
No,
edit them
I
for you.
appreciate that, because honestly, I've sent it to a few people so far, and I feel like they have been I don't necessarily want to say like critical. I think they've been supportive for sure, but I feel like I need someone who's like not afraid to hurt my feelings. Which I don't necessarily think like they're not afraid to hurt my feelings, but I feel like they're like, this sucks. I don't think they'd be like, this sucks. Which if it sucks, I just want to be told it sucks.
Rob's chapters. It's 5 pages at 30 point.
Nice.
Shut the fuck up. It's like 300
Honestly,
pages, jackass.
So that's one of the things that I think. I feel like some chapters are very short, not necessarily 5 pages short, but well, some of them might be 5 pages. I don't know, but then there's some that are like much longer than that. But I think it's a lot harder. I feel like when you're thinking about writing a book or you're thinking about writing anything in general, I think you think like, oh yeah, I can write like fucking 20 pages about this. And then like you start to write it and you're like 3 pages in and you're like, that's like all I got.
Yep. Believe me, I know the feeling.
I think I'm a very succinct writer, but I feel like in terms of like writing a book, there needs to be more fluff. And I'm not a fluff person. Like I'm like, this is what it is, you know?
Yeah, it needs to just be fluid though. So even if it's, you don't want to add fluff because people like readers will identify that as just like you're pumping the information. But if you're able to tell the story and if say like, so I target 10 pages per chapter, but if I go 8 or I go 12, I don't care.
Yeah.
But it's when I hit 3 and I'm like, all right, this chapter, you know, I do a very rough and loose outline. Mm-hmm. And if I say, all right, this chapter is only 3 or 4 pages, I'm like, all right, I don't need it then. I'll just add it somewhere else. I'll add the information or the plot to somewhere else.
So this is the first time I ever tried writing something and I didn't really like plan it at all. At first I just like started just like basically just like typing up everything that happened in like chronological order, which I feel like the first few chapters I feel like kind of makes sense, just kind of like explaining like, you know, why I started thinking about going, like what made me want to go and like the process to actually go and all that stuff. I feel like that made sense. But then like when I actually got over there and like the first couple of chapters of like my first few days over there and like just like talking about like 35 different people and just thinking like a reader is going to be able to follow that, I'm like, yeah, I need to just really think about this. So I like started writing that and it's just like, this is going to be way too confusing. So like I had to like kind of rework everything, but it's been a process for sure. It's interesting. I never thought I'd write anything. So
yeah, neither did I. I'm waiting to see if I actually get published is my like, that's my goal. If I get published, I'm like, all right, I'm done. Like, even though it's a trilogy, I'm like, all right, I'm done. If I get someone to sign up, I don't give a shit if I sell like one book. I'd be ecstatic.
I don't know if I'm just like super cocky, but I feel like if I actually can like sit down and write this, I feel like it would be a good seller. Like I feel like it'd be.
I think there's some good stories in there that you could definitely like. People will definitely be interested in, especially since, you know, since the Middle East, since Iraq and Afghanistan, like this is the pretty big deal, and we're not actually involved from a military aspect, and for you to kind of put your life on pause and help out is amazing. I think people will definitely buy that.
I mean, honestly,
my shit's
like,
fiction. Like,
yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, I do think it's like topical, obviously, like it's something that's going on currently. I don't really know that there's been like anything written from a firsthand perspective of like someone in Ukraine since this has started, but I'm sure there's like somebody else that's like working on writing something like that by now already. But I don't know. I just think it's interesting because like I agree that we're not already involved militarily, but in some aspects, like this is already a world war. You know what I mean? Like I don't necessarily think that we should have a hot war with Russia by any means, but like Russia is not our friend. You know what I mean? They've been hacking us for years at this point. Like, they clearly do not have our best interest at heart. And I don't know. I think it's crazy to me, like, seeing people who clearly are, trying to become more Western and believe in the same values that we believe in, and that we're not supporting them, especially when supporting them means hurting our enemy. Like, I don't understand why we're not more concerned about Ukraine's success, but whatever. But I guess that's why I did what I did. So
they're more concerned with coddling than doing anything. And that's as political as I'm getting.
No, I agree. I mean, honestly, like, last week was Memorial Day, and today, I think when I signed up for this time with Rob, I kind of like jokingly had said that it was the anniversary of D-Day, and it's just so crazy to me. I last week on Memorial Day had posted something on Facebook saying that America was the land of the free because we used to be brave, and I don't know what we're doing here anymore. Like, if we're not gonna stand up and defend our values, like, it's not gonna be long before we don't have them here. I don't know.
You know what's interesting? I saw a post. I don't know if it was a meme or whatever it was, but that said, we waited around for a long time before we intervened on World War II. Yeah. And look how that turned out. Like, we lost a lot of Americans, a lot of Europeans.
That's the thing. That's the thing. I think that's the most frustrating about this, because, like, the sooner we step in, the less lives lost there will be.
Yeah, and I don't understand. Like, I don't know. Maybe it's just my ignorance, but I know in World War II there was a lot because of World War I. This is a much different scenario. It's a one-off, and I get it. Like, they're not part of NATO, but that doesn't mean you can't defend them. Like, are they?
Sure. I mean, honestly, like, the Ukrainian forces, they sent soldiers to the wars on terror under the ISAF NATO, forces. They have been a NATO ally in all but name. Like, they have done everything short of, like, actually achieve, NATO admittance or whatever you want to call it. But, like, they've done everything else, and they have been our ally, and we have signed agreements basically saying that we wouldn't allow this to happen, yet we're perfectly content with letting it go on as long as it's convenient for everyone. I don't know.
Yeah, to me, the Ukraine's more of a Western country at this point, and it's a shame because there is Russian origin there, and there's it's so closely related between Russia and Ukraine that it's a shame because it's like there's cousins, there's there's marriages across the border, and it's really like is it one person's agenda? I don't know. I don't know if it's just
it's hard to say, honestly, because like, you see the polling and there's a lot of support among the Russian people for the war, but they're also subjected to propaganda. So, like, I don't know. I think the world isn't black and white, and I guess the older I get, the easier it is to, like, realize that. And not that I'm, like, giving anyone the benefit of the doubt, because I don't know. I think if Fox News or CNN or whoever tomorrow, like, started telling us that, like, I don't know, like, Biden invading Mexico was okay for some odd reason, like, I think most Americans would probably be like, yeah, that's probably fine. Like, honestly,
if it's on TV, it must be true.
That's probably true. So I mean,
that's crazy that people don't they just turn on the TV, listen to whatever channel they listen to, and they believe everything they tell them instead of actually digging in and doing some research. And so, but I mean, it's hard these days to decipher what is true and what is not. There's a
Honestly,
lot of
I agree
bullshit
with that
out there.
completely. I agree with that. I mean, even now, like there are so many people that even now like argue with me about what I saw in Ukraine. I'm just like, you know what? I don't even care if you agree with me or not, because like clearly, it's not even about like what you see or like willing to believe something, because like I'm a person that you know personally and you still like don't believe what I'm saying, and I have no agenda. Like there's no reason why if I went over to Ukraine and saw like, you know, a nation of Nazis, I wouldn't come back and pretend like I was over there helping someone that wasn't, you know, a good person. But that's not what's over there. And the like number of people that will still argue with me, and it's just like at the end of the day, like regardless of who you're believing, whether it's me or whether it's Tucker Carlson or Rachel Maddow or whoever, like you're putting your faith in somebody's like third hand reporting. At the best, like I'm a second hand, but like if you're trusting them, like you're trusting someone who's like reporting something purely agenda driven, one way or another. It's just like
Rachel Maddow is my go-to for news. So is Morning Joe.
I was just saying, like, I was just trying to think of like two, you know, opposite ends of the spectrum. But I'm just saying.
The liner notes.
But yeah, like I do think that it's hard. I mean, I think there are Russian soldiers on the ground in Ukraine that like know what's happening. And even if there aren't, like there are Russian soldiers on the ground in Ukraine that are like raping innocent civilians and women. Like even if they are believing the propaganda of Putin, like there are just like shitty people doing shitty things. And I don't think that's like a reason to blame like every Russian or whatever, but
yeah, and that's what they said. There are war crimes going on now, right?
Yeah. So that's crazy. But like to go back to your point, I don't know what I expected necessarily in terms of like how Western I thought Ukraine was going to be, but it was very Western. I was surprised, honestly, and I think they want to become more Western all the time. And so the thing that's crazy to me, like I read something right after the invasion, and it said something that like in 2003, half the world's population lived in a country that was considered free, and today is less than 20%. So over the course of like 20 years, like a third of the world's population has lost freedom.
Well, that's because they caved to the dictatorships.
Well, for sure, but also because we're not standing up and defending people who are defending freedom. Like, and I can say this as
then there's the argument: when do we stop becoming the world police? You know,
I agree with
losing.
that. So, and this is that's like perfectly sets me up into what I was gonna say, because I think the difference is, and I can say this like having experienced, you know, like being in the Middle East and going to a third world country and trying to nation build and try to make people like us and try to build democracy and all that sort of shit. Like that was a huge mistake. Trying to convince people to like live a different lifestyle at gunpoint is never going to work. Ever, ever, ever.
But throwing money at the situation is not going to work either.
No, I agree.
They're not going to change their ways.
No, for sure. I totally agree. I agree 100% on that. But my point is that like you have a country like Ukraine that like understands the difference and wants what we are offering, and we're not doing what we need to do to help them get there. Like if this were 1776 and France was like, that's your problem. You know what I mean? Like it's the same difference.
I think this all ties back to the NATO agreement, and this becomes NATO's responsibility. And if we intervene, then all bets are off, and all the agreements that we've signed are null and void. And then it's all out war. I think that's the case, but I am not 100% certain.
I mean, I just don't know how much longer we can continue to, whether we want to call it being the world police or not, like whatever you want to call it, like how much longer we can continue to like fail to meet our commitments to the world in the way we left Afghanistan, or in like the fact that we've committed to defending Ukraine's sovereign territory, which we've already failed to do by allowing Russia to annex Crimea. And now we're allowing it to happen again. I honestly don't understand why Finland or Sweden would even want to join NATO, because why would they think that we're going to honor Article 5 when we haven't honored any of the things that we're supposed to have honored up to this point?
And all those things happened under a particular party's watch.
Totally. I don't deny that at all. So, I don't know why that's funny. Like it's true.
No. Yeah, Rob's laughing because we one thing he and I promised doing this podcast is we don't get political, and every so often I drop my little 2 cents in, so that's why he's laughing.
No, for sure. But I'm just saying, like, it's not gonna take the world much longer to realize that, like, and honestly, it's not even that I think America is weak. I think we're being led by weak people, and I think we are being seduced by weak ideology. And I think I don't even
coddle culture. It's the coddle culture.
No, it is. I forget what this saying is, but it's like hard times breed hard men, hard times breed soft times breed soft men, or something like that. But basically, like, if you think about it from like the Depression as a point of view, like out of that like hard time came very strong people, and because of that we had very prosperous times, and because of the prosperous times it created weak people, and because of weak people it's creating hard times. So it's like a cyclical. I don't remember what the actual quote is. It's probably much more eloquent than like the way I put it, but and I don't even know where I was going with this. I don't think that we are a weak country. I think we're being led by weak people, but I think it's substantially hurting us on the world stage right now. Whether we get involved in Ukraine or not, like, we need to at some point stand up for freedom and democracy. Like, we need to like actually draw a red line in the sand somewhere and mean it and be willing to back that up. And that's why I don't think we're brave anymore. And that's why I think 30% of the world's population isn't free anymore, because Russia and China know that we're not prepared to put our money where our mouth is. Honestly.
So going on Jimmy Kimmel Live is not a good idea?
I don't know what that accomplishes, whether it's a good idea or not, but
everything's a shit show, and this motherfucker is going on Jimmy Kimmel Live.
When?
Wednesday, I don't know. I mean, what
teleprompters?
I mean, what the fuck are you thinking? The fucking world is burning. The country is fucking burning. And this motherfucker, I'm going to go on a comedian's talk show.
Am I going to have to edit you out?
I'm going to go crack jokes with Jimmy Kimmel about, I don't know what. What the fuck can he crack jokes about? How fucking retarded he is?
Maybe he can fall up some stairs getting on Air Force One again. That was pretty funny.
Three times.
Yeah. On the same day. On the same trip up the stairs.
You didn't see that? He tripped 3 times going up the fucking stairs. Nobody challenged it. The last guy maybe fucking stutter stepped down a ramp, and they wanted to challenge his cognitive ability to fucking be the leader.
Well, then there was the time where he held Mitch McConnell's hand coming down the stairs because Mitch McConnell had polio, and people were making fun of him about it. But
we have to do a bourbon tasting, and you're going to help us out on this one.
Okay,
we definitely got to do this again. You got to top me off. Yeah, got to top me off. Definitely want to do this again. Thank you again. This was amazing, but you're not going anywhere yet.
I feel like we didn't even really talk about Ukraine that much, or at least like in comparison to like the number of stories I have. So,
well, the stories were all about Ukraine. So hold on a second. We just gotta shuffle into our part of
your sponsor.
No, podcast. This brings us to the bourbon tasting. So, Rob, what are we tasting tonight?
We are tasting Whistle Pig rye whiskey, aged 10 years. It has 100 proof. Did you know that?
I know. I'm looking at the box.
50% alcohol by volume. This is.
Why is 116 proof?
Oh damn! Oh damn! His is stronger than ours.
Good thing.
So
that makes so much more sense. I feel great.
I didn't realize Whistle Pig was distilled in Vermont. So Shorehammer, Vermont, Quiet Valley Road, Whistle Pig Farm. That's all I got on this bottle. I didn't do any other research, but that's it. So both Dan and us are tasting this. It's pretty. I think it's pretty good. I'm a big fan.
That's smooth.
So, is this a blend or is it a straight rye?
Straight rye. Oh,
it
mine's
is a straight rye. A blend of straight rye. So, I was put off by ryes because someone gave me a rye and it was like a punch in the nose. And I hate the bourbons that just like punch you in the nose and it's like, holy shit, what the is this fucking fire water or something? But the smooth ryes, this is aged 10 years, easy sippers. I'm a huge fan. And that's what this Whistle Pig 10-year rye is. Definitely an easy sipper. We taste ours neat. Some of the tasting notes, I'm going to say caramel. We didn't do a third glass tonight. So you ever do a third glass? Second glass sniff test. So pour a splash in a second glass, right? And then pour yourself your drink. Swirl that second glass around. Let it sit for about 5 minutes. Dump it out. After about 7-8 minutes, you'll get the undertones of the different aromas that are in that bourbon or rye, whichever it is. You smell your wet glass and then you smell your dry glass. Huge difference. But some of the flavors.
Or you just wait until you're done with your glass and then smell it. That works too.
So when you're done with your glass tonight, leave it on the counter. Tomorrow morning when you wake up, take a sniff.
I don't know. This is pretty smooth. The price point is nice. I'm going to go 7.5 on this. Yeah, 7.5. How about you, Sal?
I'm going to ride on your coattails there, Rob. I'm going to go 7.5 as well.
What do you think, Dan?
Honestly, I would say it's probably a 7.5. It's pretty good.
Look at that. Across the board. 7.5. Wow. Amazing. Dan from Montana, 7.5.
Dan from Philly, who's gone to Montana and Alaska.
Who is in Montana.
For the time being. You never know where you're going to find me.
For the next couple minutes.
Yeah.
Dan, I thank you very much for coming on the show. We really had a blast. And thank you again for your service and what you did in Ukraine. It's truly amazing. I hope you really are able to get back there to continue the humanitarian efforts with the refugees. We'd definitely love to have you on again to hear part 2. Dan, pleasure meeting you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks a lot. It was great talking to you guys. I was glad to come on.
Thanks, Duffy. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Rob.